completes the circle. Adam became light to matter. There, the rabbis are talking about the transition back from matter to a higher energy state. And that's why the Rashba, Rabbi Shlomo ben Aderet, back in the 1400s, says that this is the Last Supper. Is that this is the transition from this world. As we eat this food, it's all symbolic, but it'll be the transition into the next dimension. So, that was like, because I got off onto that. So in the book of Daniel, every chapter is interesting in Daniel. From the second chapter, when Nebuchadnezzar has a dream and he forgets the dream, he not only doesn't know the interpretation, he doesn't know the dream. So Daniel is called in, and he tells them the dream and he tells them the interpretation. And that this big statue with the head of gold and the shoulders of silver and the torso of copper and the legs of iron and one leg of copper, 1 foot of copper, and one foot of cheres, of clay. And he says this is Babylon, this is Persia, this is Greece, and that's Rome. And at the end of Rome is Rome together with Yishmael. That is to say, that's the interpretation. He says, I should look at it inside exactly what he says. Forgive me if I'm how should I do this? Let's see.
Who's the commentator on Daniel?
The Saadia Gaon. Let me just make sure what I'm saying. Because Yishmael does come in, but I don't want to distort it at all. Okay. Forgive me, I don't have this here. He does say that it'll be different kingdoms, and that the stone that breaks the statue, it grows into a mountain, will be another kingdom. He doesn't name the kingdoms there. Later on, in the 7th and 10th chapters, Daniel is very explicit about 4 beasts, right? And the 4th beast especially has 10 horns, and that's where the commentators come in and say that the 10th horn is Yishmael. So there's actually, when you get down to it, it's very interesting that Islam is on the rise. It's a very dangerous system, in my humble opinion. What's going on in Europe? It's basically a demographic trip that they're on, so that they can impose Sharia. And what's our reaction to it? First of all, we have prophecies about it, and we have specific prophecies about not only Yishmael in general, but Persia. And we know that they have a very serious vision or dream of world control and the 12th Mahdi, and that they're really into it and are trying to get nuclear power to bring it into actuality. And Hashem knows we have thousands of missiles pointed at us in Israel from Hezbollah and from Hamas, and that in Syria, I don't know what's going on in Syria now. Thank God Turkey is a little bit coming to some sanity. Turkey is very interesting. But there's a movie called Iranium, made by the same people that made the Obsession. Very, very good, very well done. And the second one was The Third Jihad, and the third one is called Iranium, which is Iran plus uranium. Don't let that happen. Right? Don't let that happen. And the best case scenario is that the revolution, which failed twice because nobody helped them, is if we help the Iranian people. They hate the despotic, they hate the totalitarian regime that they're under, and they are doing everything they can to overthrow it. And they need our help and our bless you, and our prayers. And that's the best way to neutralize the Iranian threat. In the book of Daniel, Gabriel comes to him at the conclusion of the 10th chapter of Daniel. We're told how Gabriel, together with Michael, the heavenly spiritual advocate of Israel, stood up against the angel prince of Persia. The idea of an angel prince is very powerful, and I want to share a little bit about it. Let me just read what it says first. He, Gabriel, said to me, Daniel, do not fear. Daniel had seen at the end of chapter 8 of Daniel, a very frightening vision, and he fasted for 21 days. And he was distraught. He was distraught and beside himself. And so Gabriel says to him, do not fear, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand and to fast before your God, your words have been heard, and I have come now in the merit of your words. And the Talmud actually translated differently. It's in the merit of your prayers I have now been allowed to enter before the divine throne to plead on Israel's behalf. Not only have I come to you, which is the pshat of the words, but I've now been permitted to enter. Enter where? It's not said, but the Talmud takes it that I've been able to enter into heaven. The heavenly prince of the kingdom of Persia stood opposed to me for 21 days, the exact number of days that Daniel was unbeknownst to him. He was fasting. He didn't know why. When you feel you need to do something, you should follow your intuition. He was fasting. When behold, Michael, one of the foremost heavenly princes, came to help me, and I remained there beside the kings of Persia to block them. Now I will return to battle with the heavenly prince of Persia. Then I will depart. But behold, the heavenly prince of Greece approaches. And I will tell you now, and I will tell you now what is inscribed in truthful, unalterable writing, i.e., though I cannot be of help against the Greeks as I was with the Persians, I will at least forewarn you about what is about to befall your nation. And no one reinforces me against these decreed events except your heavenly prince, Michael. So it's a little bit more I'll read to you, just to get the grounding in what I want to say. Right after Gabriel and Michael succeed in overcoming the angel of Persia, thus spelling the end of the Persian Empire in his time. That's what it means. To overcome the angel of Persia is the heavenly scene up there. It's like if you see a movie, there's a heavenly scene and there's an earthly scene. And this, what happens up here, is going to determine immediately what's going to happen down here. And we're going to use that principle. So immediately after overcoming that angel, the angel of Greece appears to take its place. All Gabriel is able to do now is to tell Daniel what will happen. Verses 1 through 39 of chapter 11 are Gabriel's detailed prophecy about Israel's oppression under Greek rule. The remaining 5 verses at the end of chapter 11, plus all 13 verses of the 12th and final chapter of Daniel, take us into the future again to the end of the 4th empire, the Empire of Rome. And I forgot now if Rome is mentioned in name. He is in the book of Avadia, and we'll see in the Midrashim. But what I don't know, I know. What I don't know, I don't know. Right? I didn't record that detail. I don't know if the name Rome or Edom or Esav is mentioned in Daniel. I didn't pay attention well enough. So the principle here is every nation except Israel has an angelic prince in heaven through which it rises to the status of a world power. We said that Ishmael is rising now. Rising. It's on the rise. Where does that come from? That comes from an ancient decree that every nation would have a chance. And Yishmael's chance would be the last, just before Mashiach. In order to neutralize the power of that nation or empire, it is only necessary to neutralize its spiritual power source. That nation or empire will then automatically fall. When we're up in heaven, we have to learn how to do this. Then the guy on earth, whatever his name is, Ahmadinejad or the guy in Hezbollah, they all become like ants. They are nothing. They're wicked. Their evil machinations to destroy become a game, nothing. because we now connect to the spiritual reality behind and above physical. And I'll give you a few examples how this works with Bilam and what's happening with Bilam. By revealing to Daniel what transpired in heaven with these angel princes, by revealing to Daniel what was happening in heaven with these angel princes, Gabriel was informing him what would eventually transpire on earth. The time allotted for the Persian Empire to rule the world would come to an end. It would then be followed by the rise of the Greek Empire, followed by the Roman Empire, followed by the Messianic Kingdom of Israel. So this is where the Maharal takes over. The Maharal is a profound thinker, as everybody knows, but he wrote a whole book about the redemption. He wrote a whole book about Passover, a whole book about Shavuot, which is the Torah book, a whole book about Pirkei Avot, yeah, Derech Chaim. Anyway, his book about the redemption is the Netzach Yisrael, about everything about, from his point of view, what he wanted to communicate to us. And so he brings the Midrashim. He brings, first of all, from the book of Daniel, and then he brings from the Midrashim.
Is Yishmael included in Esav?
Esav and Yishmael are together. I have in my Purim book I brought a lot of Midrashim which will be transferred into my Exile and Redemption book, of how Yishmael and Esav have very interesting dynamic between them, because Yishmael is Abraham's son, and Esav is Isaac's son. And the Midrash says, anybody read my Purim book?
I have it. I read it.
So I mean, this here also.
I'm gonna wait for the movie.
The idea, the movie is that Esav goes to Yishmael and says, "Hey, I want you to do me a favor. I know that you feel tremendous anger at Isaac, at Yitzhak, my father. Kill him. Kill my father. I can't kill Jacob, my brother, while my father's alive. I'm willing to work with you together." The end of Parshat Toldot. We learn this. And then I'll kill Jacob, I'll kill Yaakov, and we'll rule the world together. The Midrash says this. Aman Nava Belibo, the wicked man said in his heart. Vayomer Esav liYishmael, and Vayomer Esav Belibo. Yes, when I'm outside, I can't exactly quote, but the point is that's what he said to Yishmael. What he said in his heart was, after he does my dirty work for me, I'll kill him. So I'll take over the world. So he doesn't know. So I don't have a source for this, and therefore I just say, as an extension of what the Midrash says, I'm sure Yishmael says he thinks that I don't know that he's going to try